is the 2nd of June 2017, and today is the first day of Blade Show. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make it there this year. I had some prior engagements, and one of those engagements was to show you a new product. Now, it's not every day that I release new products. I'm a one-person shop, and generally I'm pretty well swamped making my folders and doing some other customization work. So getting the time to actually sit down and design out a new knife is kind of rare for me, but I decided to do something very different. The fixed blade knife market has been really taking off recently, and I don't have a fixed blade knife at all in my lineup. I do exclusively flipper folders, and while they're popular, I thought that it would be a really good idea to go ahead and release a fixed blade. So what I wanted to do was design a knife that was equally at home as a camping knife as it was on your belt as a personal defensive knife or just a regular old utility knife. And so I sort of set about thinking about the parameters of what would make a really good knife for these purposes. I want something around 4 to 5 inches, something with a good comfortable handle that wasn't going to be too crazy radical, but also, had maybe a little bit of a forward incline to it. And what I came up with was this guy here. This is the Moon Crysknife. Now, if you're familiar with the the name, you'll probably know where that came from, but for those who don't, I am a huge classic sci-fi fan, and one of my favorite books of all time is Dune. It was written by a guy named Frank Herbert, and I just love Dune. It's one of my favorite books, like I said. And the Fremen, the desert warriors in that series, use a knife called a Crysknife, and it's fashioned out of a sandworm tooth. They without getting too much into the lore there, they're these big giant beasts that they ride into combat and used for various other things. Unfortunately, Arakeen's sandworm tooth is in short supply around here. I don't have access to Shai Hulud out there. And anyway, I wanted to build something, however, that would be kind of in that same sort of vein, both a fighting knife, but also something that would be good for utility and whatnot. And so this is what I came up with, and I named it after the Crysknife. So this is a 4 1/4 inch blade. This is stock thickness is 1/4 inch of CPM 154. So again, this is the higher end composite particle metallurgy steel. It is extremely thick. The stock on this is very, very tough and beefy. It is on some of these they're going to have a rounded spine up here, but those are only on the prototypes. I decided to keep this flat here in case you want to use it for a striker as a fire steel. Additionally, it has a nice hollow grind on it, so you would think 1/4 inch blade stock, that's going to be a really obtuse edge. No. See, here's the deal. This is a Moon, so it's going to have a really good cutting edge. And so I got the edge geometry on this thing perfect. It has a really nice acute edge on it. It's perfect. It sharpens up to the typical standards that you expect out of my folders. And it doesn't feel like a 1/4 inch blade stock. This is a very, very nice cutting knife. In terms of the overall edge geometry, it came up perfect. You've got jimping up here, also down here. The screws for these scales here are titanium, and they're removable. These, you just pop these off and you can remove the scales. Additionally, when these go live for sale, so when you see this video, these will be live for sale on my website, www.willmooncustomknives.com. You'll be able to not only order the knives, but also additional scale sets. So if you'd like to get an additional scale set for the knife, all you do is just remove these 2 screws. You can either do it with a T10 or a T15 Torx. Just pop these off, put your new scales on, screw the screws back down, and you're off to the races. It is super, super simple and easy. It has a lanyard loop back here if you want to tie a lanyard onto the thing. And overall, it gives you a really nice, it's not a huge knife. This is not a big tactical knife or whatever. It was designed to fit in your hand like that. And it gives you kind of a bit of a forward tilt angle on it. Now, these will be available with 2 different blade shapes. You can get this particular grind. This is a single bevel tanto. Has a bit of an upward incline there, if you can see the grind on it. Or you can get this with a drop point. And the idea here is basically that when you use the tip of this knife, it's going to actually remove or kind of move your knuckles up away from the cutting surface, and so you can more easily, more comfortably cut with that. But you've got a nice run of straight edge right there. If you want to use this as a defensive knife, you've got that nice transition point there, the high pressure area. Very, very nice point on it. and it feels really good in the backhand too. I put a little ledge right there for your thumb if you want to use this in the sort of pick grip right there. You can see that. And there's really not a whole lot of extra blade here. It's not more than what you need. It's just everything you need and nothing you don't. The balance on this is really, really nice. It sits right here, right on your finger. Don't want to drop it. But really a nice little knife. It's come out very, very well. Again, like I said, CPM 154 on this one. Whether or not I'll look at other steels in the future, that remains to be seen. But that's what you get for right now. They come in a variety of different finishes, so you'll be able to select whether or not you want the satin finish, which is what this is, or you can get a variety of different Cerakotes. And we're going to go over to a tabletop view in just a second, and I'll show you some of the Cerakote that I've been able to do on some of the prototypes. But man, I tell you what, these things came out really, really well. Now, price point on these, $450 without a Kydex sheath. With a Kydex sheath is $500. So you go into the Kydex there, right out the gate, you get a really, really nice little knife. Now, this is a full custom knife. This is not something that I farm out to anybody. I do everything on this knife in the shop. It is hand ground, so it's not like it's done with a machine. And you're getting what I think is a really nice little utility backup knife. Very, very tough. And again, look at the hollow grind on that thing. It's just epic, the way that this came out. Now, that's to say, I'm offering them without sheaths because I'm in the process of working with a couple different sheath manufacturers to try and find some aftermarket guys. So in case you want to order a knife without the sheath, and you can go to a different sheath manufacturer if you don't like the ones that I do, which are just real basic Kydex, you can go to them and get a sheath made for the knife for not a whole lot of extra money. I'm trying to save you guys cash. I understand these are more expensive than your Essie. You know, they're more expensive than some of the other options out there, but you know, I'm trying to offer a higher quality product here. And again, this is full custom, handmade here in Apex, North Carolina. This is not imported. Everything in this is American made. You get titanium bolts on it, G10 or micarta or your choice of handle material on this, CPM 154 steel, and you know, like I said, they're all custom made. So that's the Moon Crysknife. Let's cut over to a little bit of a tabletop, and I'll show you this in a little bit more detail. Alrighty folks, let's take a look at these in a little closer detail now that we're here on the tabletop. We've got a couple of examples here of the Crysknife and a couple different blade shapes and finishes so that you can see what they look like. I've also got a spare set of scales, and I'll show you how easy it is to change the scales out. Let me do that right now first off. Let's say we have this particular knife here, and we bought it with the really nice contoured scales, and they're available in a couple of different styles. You can see this is the slab side, so if you go and order them, this is what the slab side looks like, and this is what the contoured looks like, okay? And those will both be available on the website when you order your knife custom. So let's say that we want different material though. This is G10, black G10, and I'm looking for today, I bought myself an extra set of canvas micarta scales. These are in green canvas micarta. It's been bead blasted, so it's got a little bit of texture to it, the way that, you know, people like to have their canvas micarta done. So changing the scales is really, really easy. We're just going to use a T15 driver here. This is from Weehaw. I suggest Weehaw. They are, in my opinion, the best drivers out there for doing knife work. They last forever. Really great drivers. I don't get any kickbacks for that, although I probably should. And what we're doing is just going to push these through just a little bit. And these are precisely reamed, so these will just pop right out. It doesn't matter which way you take them out, but sometimes they're a little tighter than others on one side versus the other. I'm just going to push that out. Okay, and then our scales just remove like so. And most of my customers are smart enough to figure out how to turn a screw, but the easiest way to do this, what I usually do is I will take the new set of scales and I will insert the pivots, well, they're not really pivots in this particular instance, they're actually just bolts, into here. Okay, and then what we're going to do is take our blade, make sure this is nice and clean. We don't want to have any dirt underneath of there. And you probably want to routinely just pop these scales off, just make sure there's no rust going on, and I usually put a little bit of grease underneath them just to keep them nice and fresh. And then we just attach our new set of scales. And these just tighten down like so. Let me actually get into that screw. You don't want to have to torque it down or anything like that. It is not necessary. And there we go. Got ourselves a new set of scales on there. You'll notice everything lines up with that nice plunge line on there. This is the satin finish. So if you order a satin finish knife, you're going to get this crazy deep hollow grind on this thing, which I think looks amazing. And you're going to get a really nice hand rubbed satin finish on the flats. This is what the single bevel Tanto, the APT grind is. So if you order this particular version of the blade grind, this is what you're going to expect. There's your green canvas micarta, and I think that's really pretty. Now, on the versions that don't have Cerakote, they're going to get marked with my name right there. That's my maker's mark. The versions with Cerakote are stealth, and so they don't have a maker's mark. These are two others. I already showed you this one just in passing. And this is the blackout version. There will be an option for getting the blackout version. This is all black Cerakote, black on the screws, black G10, and I think it's mean looking. Look at that. I mean, it looks like a stealth fighter. That was kind of the idea. I wanted to have something that looked really, really aggressive. But at the same time, this is not like an enormous knife. Let me show you in comparison to a Mark 10, so you can have an idea as to the differences. The Mark 10 actually has a little bit longer handle, but the blade is very similar in terms of length. The Mark 10 needed to accommodate that blade, and also I left a little bit of extra there to basically give it a pommel so that you can beat people with it. But you know, that's the difference in size there. But here's the difference in the blade thickness. The Mark 10 is a very thick blade. This is thicker than an Emerson, thicker than a Direware, thicker than you know, a Hinderer in terms of the blade stock thickness, thicker than a Strider. Look at the thickness of the Crysknife, that 1/4 inch blade stock. Let me give you a little bit more dramatic example, and maybe you're not familiar with the Mark 10, but maybe a large Sebenza. This is one of my EDC knives here, and that's kind of the size that you're looking at. The handle's very similar in terms of the large Sebenza, so if you find that comfortable, you're probably going to find the Crysknife comfortable. But here's the thickness of the stock. You'll notice it just dwarfs that Sebenza. It's literally twice the thickness on the stock. Very, very, very tough. And this one here is crowned over. You can have that with or without the crown. You know, generally standard they're going to come without the crown, but if you want the crown you can add it. It does not cost any extra. But that is really going to give you a very, very tough blade, and it is full tang construction on this thing. It's basically indestructible. Now obviously the typical caveats, don't throw it at stuff. It's not meant to be a throwing knife. It's not meant to be used as a pry bar, but this is a fixed blade knife. I wanted it to be tough. I wanted it to be capable, and that's why the stock thickness. It's just overbuilt. It really is in terms of the amount of stock thickness. Now this is the drop point blade, and you'll notice it's a little different in terms of the blade shape. This is in the camo finish if you want to get camouflage. And this has the multi-layer G10 on it. So, you know, the intent here was really to build what I thought would be a really good multi-purpose knife. It's not meant to be per se a fighting knife or whatever, but you'll be able to get it if you want in a swedge, which is going to make it a really nice pierce cutter. You'll be able to get it with the APT grind on here, and of course you'll be able to get it with or without the swedge on that too. And these are, like I said, they're $450 without the sheath. If you want to get a sheath made from somebody else, that's really a good option there. Otherwise, $500 and you get a Kydex sheath with the knife. So, you know, it's I think a really nice value. This is full custom, like I said. They are custom order. You'll be able to pick up the prototypes. Those will be up on my website. But I intend to do these mostly custom order. They will be limited number of orders up on my website. So if you want one, pick one up now, because I'm going to limit them during the first run. We're going to see how they go in terms of the timing and whatnot, and then I will probably open up for additional custom orders. I'm hoping to get the first batch of like 10 or 15 of them done before July, and I'd really like to kind of move quickly on these. They don't take a whole lot of time when you compare them in terms of fitting with the folders, but there is quite a lot of machining that goes into actually making these things as precise as they are. They have to be done in a very, very precision manner because the scales are precise, and because of that, everything has to be very, very tight in terms of the tolerances. So, that's the Moon Crysknife. If you guys have any questions about them, my email is support@willmooncustomknives.com. You're more than welcome to contact me out there. If you have any questions on this video, you're more than welcome to leave a comment as well. And please definitely do visit my website, www.willmooncustomknives.com, for ordering information. You can pick them up there on custom order, or if the prototypes are more your fancy, you want to get one of these, they will be available this afternoon. Today is the 2nd of June. Yeah, I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for all the support. Thanks for all the help. I'll see you guys later. Bye.